Welcome to the deep dive. We take a huge pile of research on something complex and, well, we give you the shortcut.
Try to anyway.
Exactly. Today, our focus is patient engagement, PE,
Yeah.
But we're really zeroing in on Medtech.
Right. So that's medical devices, diagnostics, digital health, that whole area.
In Medtech, it's given us incredible things, surgical robots, wearables that change lives.
It's absolutely cutting edge stuff.
But here's the thing, the puzzle really.
Yeah.
Why is the adoption of actual formal patient engagement so much slower, so much patchier in Medtech compared to, say, biopharma?
Yeah.
Why is that crucial input kind of lagging?
Well, that disparity, that's really the core question in the research we looked at. The mission was to see how lessons from biomedical research, where PE is frankly more established, how those can actually apply to developing medtech products. So the sources looked at, current approaches, the barriers that keep popping up.
The sticking points.
Exactly. And really importantly, how companies can actually measure the value, the ROI, of doing this stuff across the whole product lifecycle.
Okay, let's start with a baseline then.
Yeah.
What is PE officially?
So ICEPOR, their patient-centered special interest group, they have a pretty solid definition. They call it the active, meaningful, and collaborative interaction between patients and researchers across all stages of the research process.
Okay.
Where research decision-making is guided by patients' contributions as partners.
It sounds a bit academic. For a developer, or even just me, what's the plain English version?
It's basically shifting the patient from just being like the subject you study to being a real design partner, someone who actually has a say in decisions. It's not just asking, did they use the device right? It's asking way earlier, should we even be building it this way?
Got it. Okay, so if the value seems clear, why is Medtech specifically struggling with this partnership idea? You mentioned sources point to 4 big factors.
Yeah, 4 main things make Medtech kind of unique here. First is just product heterogeneity.
Meaning the sheer variety.
Exactly. A Medtech covers everything from, your glucose monitor or smartwatch,
Right.
stuff you use every day,
Right. Patient-facing.
all the way to massive MRI machines or lab equipment the patient might never even see, let alone interact with directly. So trying to have one consistent PE strategy across that range, it's really tough.
Okay, that makes sense. Factor 2, you mentioned regulatory differences, something about incentives.
Yeah, this one's big. Unlike biopharma, a lot of medtech stuff doesn't need huge clinical trials to get authorized.
Right.
And here's the kicker. The FDA isn't required to fill out a patient experience data, a PED table, when they review devices. They are for drugs.
So less formal pressure.
Precisely.
Okay.
Without that requirement, there's less immediate market pressure, less of a clear regulatory signal saying you must do this compared to biopharma.
Yeah.
So the incentive to invest heavily up front in PE, it's just lower.
Okay, hang on. Medtech talks a lot about user-centered design
Right.
and rapid innovation cycles. That sounds patient-friendly. Why are shorter development timelines listed as a barrier? Shouldn't that make it easier to get feedback in?
You'd think so. It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But because those timelines are so crunched, the process often prioritizes speed and just technical stuff, getting it working.
Okay.
So products often start with engineers, maybe in a hospital setting, and patients might not really get a look in until there's already a prototype.
Or even after it's launched.
Or even post-market, yeah. And by then. Trying to change something fundamental based on patient feedback is way more expensive, way more complicated.
Right, you've already built the thing.
Right.
And the last factor, finding partners.
Yeah, finding the right patient partners can be tricky. Biopharma often targets specific diseases, right? Where there are often big established patient groups, foundations.
Advocacy groups?
Exactly. Ready to go.
Yeah.
But medtech products, sometimes they serve really broad populations. Think about something like a standard joint replacement.
Okay. There isn't necessarily one single organized patient community for people needing knee replacements that a company can just tap into easily for partnership from day one.
Right. That paints a clear picture of the big structural challenges. What about inside the companies? Especially smaller ones.
Yeah.
The hurdles sound very immediate, like money.
Oh, definitely. The 2 biggest internal roadblocks are resources and tied to that, this kind of fuzzy ROI.
Fuzzy ROI.
Yeah. Doing PE properly takes dedicated people. It takes time, actual budget lines, training. It's not free.
Right.
So for smaller companies, maybe startups that don't have tons of cash lying around, they need really solid proof that this is going to pay off financially before they commit those kinds of resources.
So if the money argument is tough, especially for smaller firms, that leads straight into cultural inertia, I guess.
Exactly. Developers, engineers, they're used to working a certain way, focusing on the tech specs, the clinical data.
Hmm.
And the sources really hammer this point, without either convincing financial data showing the return or clear pressure from regulators, like that PED table you mentioned.
Right. Without that external push, changing the internal culture, that default way of operating, it's just slow going.
Okay, so moving outside the company walls then, what about external hurdles? You mentioned clarity and compliance issues keep coming up.
Yeah, developers consistently point to these as major reasons they hesitate to invest more in PE.
Let's start with clarity. What's unclear?
Well, there's uncertainty about how PE activities or the data they collect, like patient experience data, patient preference data, how that stuff will actually be used by regulators or payers in their decisions.
So if they spend the money collecting it, will it even make a difference to getting approved or reimbursed?
Exactly. That ambiguity makes it really hard to justify the cost internally. Why invest if you don't know the payoff rule?
Which leads to the compliance side. Why is the risk tolerance seemingly so low here?
Yeah, compliance worries are huge. Things like patient privacy, legal liability concerns, human subjects protection rules.
Yeah.
They all create this sort of internal resistance. And here's a really weird one. Some companies are actually worried about anti-kickback laws.
Wait, anti-kickback, how does that relate?
Well, the concern, however misplaced it might seem, is that engaging too closely with patients, maybe compensating them for their time as partners, could somehow be seen as an improper inducement.
Wow, so rules designed to protect the system are actually stopping companies from having conversations that would make products better and safer.
It's a bizarre irony, isn't it? That fear, that low risk tolerance often means Medtech just defaults to engaging users really late.
Right, you mentioned user and human factors testing.
Yeah, which sounds similar, but it's really different.
So,
Well, human factors testing typically is asking late in the game, can the person use this device safely? Can they follow the instructions? It's basically a safety check before launch,
okay.
but real patient engagement done early. It asks much deeper questions like, should we even build it like this? Is there a fundamental need we've missed because we only thought about the tech? That early input can save millions down the line.
Okay, let's pivot then. Because despite these hurdles, the sources show there is a measurable payoff. This is where maybe the finance folks should lean in.
Absolutely. The benefits really do stack up and contribute directly to that value and ROI.
Like what? What are the big ones?
Well, first, and maybe most tangible, reduce time and cost.
How?
By talking to patients early, development teams can avoid going down wrong paths in R&D. They can prevent costly changes to clinical trial plans.
Protocol revisions.
Yeah, exactly. And it can even speed up planning those trials and getting people enrolled. All that adds up to getting the product to market faster, and time is definitely money.
And faster time to market, if the product is right, means commercial success.
For sure. PE helps make sure products are actually user-friendly, that they meet real patient needs, that drives people to actually use them, stick with them. And for investors, seeing that a company has deeply involved patients, it really strengthens the story. It shows the tech isn't just cool, it actually solves a problem patients care about.
That makes sense. You also mentioned regulatory impact, like real impact.
Yeah, collecting patient preference information, PPI, is becoming increasingly valuable. The FDA is actively looking for it.
Okay.
And it's not just theoretical. There's a concrete example. August 2018, the FDA approved an expanded use for a home hemodialysis machine.
Right.
And in their decision documents, they specifically pointed to the company's patient preference study as a key factor supporting that approval.
Wow. So, direct line. Patient input leads to broader market access.
Exactly. That's powerful evidence.
And beyond the regulatory win, just better outcomes overall, right? Happier patients, better adherence.
Absolutely. Improved patient satisfaction, people actually using the device as intended, and even better recruitment and retention in clinical trials because the trials themselves are designed with patients, not just for them.
Okay, so the value is there. How do you actually measure all this? This sounds kind of broad.
It is broad, but there are tools. A lot of the groundwork came from biopharma, admittedly, but several good frameworks exist now to capture this value.
Like what?
Well, there's PFMD's Patient Engagement Metrics Selector. It lists like 87 different metrics, things like money spent, impact on decisions. There's Parity Gym's framework, which has over 100 metrics sorted by input, process, learning, impact.
Wow, comprehensive.
Yeah. And maybe most compelling for the C-suite, the Clinical Trials Transformation Initiative, CTTI, they did an analysis looking at the expected net present value, ENPV, of investing in PE.
Yeah, what did they find?
They found that the cost reductions and the increase in that ENPV far outweigh the initial cost of the PE activities, potentially by hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
Okay.
That gets attention. That's the kind of number that speaks volumes.
That is powerful. You know, it reminds me, one of the experts quoted, I think it was Barry Leedon from Edwards Life Sciences, he suggested maybe ditching the term ROI altogether.
That's right. He talked about reframing it as the impact of engagement.
Why? What's the difference? The idea is to look beyond just the pure financial calculation, quantify the impact on design quality, on regulatory success, on patient adherence, on market reputation. It gives a fuller, more holistic picture of the value created, not just the dollars saved or earned directly.
I like that. Impact of engagement. Okay, can you give us a concrete example of this in action?
Yeah, the Typecool case study mentioned in the sources is fantastic. They're a nonprofit developing digital health tools for diabetes.
Okay.
And right from the start, they built this user research community, a registry with over 4,000 potential participants. Huge commitment up front.
Wow.
And their main product, Typecool Loop. It actually started as a patient-led DIY project in the diabetes community.
Am I kidding?
Yeah. And now it's the first fully interoperable automated insulin dosing app cleared by the FDA. Typecool basically embraced what patients were already building.
So they didn't invent it, they partnered with the inventors,
Yeah.
the patients.
Exactly. Their VP basically said, find the people who deeply understand the need and the solution, learn from what they're already doing, bring them in as equal partners in design, and support that co-production.
That's a powerful model, co-production. So looking ahead, there are opportunities, right? Things pushing for change.
Definitely. And the good news is there's momentum. Regulators are showing You see it in things like the MDUFAV commitments, the new TAP-PE program.
The Total Product Life Cycle Advisory Program.
Right. That's signaling increased focus.
And Medtech itself has some built-in advantages here, doesn't it?
It does. That culture of rapid innovation cycles, of user-centered design, fundamentally, that's a really good fit for bringing patients in earlier and more often. It's not that big a leap, conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you've got the rise of real-world data, more focus on diversity and inclusion in research.
Yeah.
All these things create new reasons, new imperatives to do PE properly.
So given all that, what needs to happen? The sources had some specific recommendations, right? 3 main actions.
Yeah, 3 key things to really close this engagement gap. First, aimed mostly at industry groups. Craft a clear framework.
A framework for what?
To define and, crucially, demonstrate the value and impact of PE, but specifically tailored for Medtech's diversity. Especially for those small and medium companies that need the business case spelled out, they need a roadmap.
Okay, a clear roadmap. Makes sense. Second action.
Develop a practical toolkit, pull together the good tools that already exist, maybe create some new ones, but basically give companies actionable resources so they aren't starting from scratch every single time.
Right. Stop reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And the third, you said this one was maybe the most critical.
Yeah, this one's for the regulators and the payers. The industry needs to push them, politely but firmly, to provide more clarity and more concrete examples of how PE actually influences their decisions.
Because that uncertainty is the big blocker for investment.
It's consistently cited as a major break. If companies see clear examples, clear signals from the FDA, from CMS, that this input matters and affects outcomes, that will unlock investment faster than almost anything else.
Okay, so to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, PE and medtech, it's definitely lagging. Product diversity, short timelines, resource issues, they're all real challenges, which makes clearly defining and showing the value, whether you call it ROI or impact of engagement, absolutely essential to get companies to invest more. And getting clearer signals from regulators and payers, that's key to kickstarting that shift.
So here's a final thought for you listening. Given that Medtech is already good at rapid innovation, at user-centered thinking, if they really embrace this idea of patient co-production, if they close these gaps, could Medtech actually end up delivering truly patient-focused solutions even faster, maybe more effectively than biopharma?
It's an interesting question.
What would that mean for the next piece of health tech you rely on every day? Something to think about.
Definitely.
Okay, that's our deep dive for this time. Thanks for joining us.